City Matters.
Welcome back here to the Fog of War and Humanity on hmTv. I'm your host, Richard Acritelli. We've had a great first episode with Trisha, talking about her brief time as a young girl here in Brooklyn, and then going back to Jamaica and getting a very solid Catholic education on Jamaica, and then kind of coming back and forth until she was 17, and then going to CW Post and doing communications, right, at CW Post. And then the moments where, her moments were not much different than many others when 9/11 happened, and it kind of stuck with a lot of people. And she got drawn to military service, her time in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, Fort Sam Houston, and then was it Fort Bliss?
Yes.
Fort Bliss, Texas.
Yes.
And then working with, medically, other soldiers and learning from them and officers and different types of situations with a lot of different medical equipment and responsibilities and know-how to help people, right? That's what it comes down to. So now you come home from Korea, right? You have your son. What's your son's name?
Tristan,
okay.
Yes.
And we were just kind of speaking before, off camera.
Yes.
He
was born at West Point.
He was born at West Point?
Yes, he was born while I was stationed at West Point.
Okay. And did you live on West Point itself?
I did. I lived on base housing at West Point.
How far were you away from the Hudson River?
A stone's throw.
It gets cold
I
off
lived
the
by
river,
this.
right?
It's beautiful. And it's just such a beautiful campus, beautiful place to be right on the river. Absolutely.
I'm writing a book on Ulysses S. Grant.
Oh, wow.
And I go to the third floor of the new library that's up there.
Okay.
And it's so conducive to research because you're in this beautiful building. It's all stone and woodwork. Then you see the cadets come in. They look sharp and they're respectful and they say, "Hello, sir, how you doing?" I'm like looking over my shoulder. Where's the sir stuff, But it's like unbelievable. And then you drive through the gate and right, you see the Thayer Hotel. And
Have you had their brunch? You have to go.
I went there for a lieutenant colonel. One of my former students, a lieutenant colonel promotion there.
Okay.
And it was good. The food was good and everything, and it was really good. And did you like living at West Point itself?
I did. I love living there. It was one of the best moments. One of the best times of my life.
So did you work with the cadets up there, or did you work with the military, active duty also?
I was assigned to Keller Army Community Hospital, and I worked as a LPN on their medical floor.
Wow.
So we were taking care of anybody that would have been admitted to the hospital. That's the cadets, that's the service members and the family members.
Families too, right?
Yeah, so it was a regular medical surgical ward.
Was there any one thing that the cadets were known for, like getting hurt, injuries, or...
They break a lot of bones.
Yeah.
Yeah, they break a lot of bones.
Very active, right?
Very, very active. So that was one thing that we saw a lot. The orthopedist there, actually, he's world famous. When he left West Point, he went to go work for Duke University.
Wow.
As their orthopedist.
Yeah, they're always on their feet.
Always, yeah. They break.
They're playing a sport.
Bones.
They're hiking, right? They're always moving, right? How long were you there for?
Basically the rest of my 7 years. The rest of my I did all my military career. The rest of my military career there.
Wow. Okay. Now, did you get sent overseas?
I did. I deployed to Afghanistan from there.
Okay. And was that your home station when you came home?
Yeah, it was.
Wow.
So I left from West Point to go join up with the 115th Combat Support Hospital out of Fort Polk. Because what happens is when combat support hospitals are getting ready to be deployed, they take staff from military hospitals all around the country. So I went to go I was assigned to it's called it's like TDY.
Yeah.
I was TDY to 115th Combat Support Hospital when they deployed to Afghanistan.
Now, were you able to bring your son?
No.
No, not to Afghanistan, but to Fort Polk?
No. Once I left West Point, it was considered my deployment.
Yeah.
So he went to go be with my mom for while I was away. And from Fort Polk, we trained up for about 2 or 3 weeks and got mission ready, familiarized ourselves with the equipment, and then we left from Fort Polk to go to Afghanistan.
That's got to be just a terrible thing. Right? Your son's young and...
He was 3.
Right, 3 years old.
Yeah, he was 3, so I missed him a lot.
And that's a good age, right?
Good enough age. I mean, he remembers some things, but I have a wonderful support system. So he was well taken care of.
Yeah, it sounds like you have like a solid family, right?
I do.
Right?
I mean, to this day, even in my healing from post-traumatic stress disorder, the difference between me and a veteran that, ends up on the street in Skid Row is my family.
Yeah.
I'll say that because I had tremendous challenges, but my support system is solid.
Was your mom and dad... because it's very noticeable how positive you are, right? And that's like a good thing, right?
Thank you.
I would imagine they weren't too far off of...
No, there was a tremendous pride in the fact that I was serving in a war. So my family, was a source of great pride for them. And
they're immigrants. They're here in this country. They made it, right? So you're fighting for the country after 9/11, which...
Right.
People, I hope they don't forget, because we're coming up on how many years now in terms of 25 years, right? Mm-hmm. Like how bad it was, right? You remember hearing the bagpipes, and the bagpipes is this great sound, but it was played over and over. You knew it was a funeral. You knew it was a church service. It was tough.
It was very tough.
Right?
And there was a tremendous coming together that was palpable in this country. Everyone.
It wasn't political. It didn't matter what party you belonged to, and
we were hurt by those attacks, and we all came together to kind of charge and defend ourselves.
So now you go to Louisiana. You probably have people there, right, that were overseas. That's kind of working with you a little bit, right?
In Louisiana, we just got ready to go. We flew from Louisiana to Kyrgyzstan, I think. Kazakhstan. And then from Kazakhstan, we took flights to Afghanistan.
Did they give you some pretty good training in Louisiana?
We did. We trained up on our weapons. We trained up on our not cadavers, but simulant, dummies.
Yeah.
Medical training.
Sure.
We learned how to suture. We learned how to, make lines, and it was just.
Did they tell you that you are going to most likely see this? You're going to this area. This is what's been seen over the last 6 months or a year.
Burns, amputations, a lot of traumatic injuries. So, like I said, they prepared us for what we would see.
So whether it's the soldiers in the field or driving in the UXOs, right, in the ground there, right? And,
I have seen a tremendous amount of trauma in every kind of way.
Sure.
My 10 months working in Afghanistan just exposed me to everything. And they prepared us as best they could, but I don't think there's a way to prepare someone for
actually being there.
Being in a war zone. There's no preparation that is possible.
All right, so you go to Kazakhstan. That's a staging area, right? Mm-hmm. How long were you in Kazakhstan for?
I believe we were there for like maybe 3 or 4 days. Once we got there, we had to physically account for all of our equipment as going into theater. So we had to count everything.
Sure.
And then once we physically accounted for all of our equipment, then we loaded that onto C-130s, and then we flew into to Afghanistan.
Was there a Burger King in Kazakhstan?
And a coffee bean and a green bean.
Yeah, there was, right?
Green bean, there was. I think there was a Burger King.
Because I've done over 130, and I remember, and that it's like the same thing. I'm in Southwest Asia.
Oh, that's funny.
I'm in, like the name, like I'm in Kazakhstan. And then one of the guys goes like this, yeah, but there was a Burger King
There's
there,
a Burger King in Kandahar.
So crazy, right? And then the coffee bean itself?
Absolutely. We need our coffee.
Wow.
I'm going to have a Frappuccino
regardless. Yeah. And then you draw all your supplies and materials there, right? And
yeah. You draw it in Kazakhstan. You have all your stuff, and then once you actually get to Afghanistan, you leave. You get off of the bird with everything that you need.
What kind of flight was that to Kazakhstan? Was it long?
Long, and a C-130. It was very uncomfortable, but you were in your full gear, full battery.
Were you sitting in a cargo net? Or?
No, they had seats, but it was interesting.
Wow.
You had your Kevlar on.
Was it cold in there?
Yeah, it was cold. Because we got there in January. It was definitely cold.
You were wearing your field jacket and everything?
I was wearing my field jacket and wondering like what life decisions I made that got me to
I'm a long ways from Huntington.
Right, like how did I end up here? Man.
But so now you go from Kazakhstan, you have all your gear, all your stuff, right? What part of Afghanistan do they fly you into?
Kandahar, I believe. We fly into Kandahar, and then we take helicopters over to, I was in Helmand Province. I was in a camp called Camp Dwyer, and that's an offshoot of Camp Leatherneck. It was a Marine. I was on a Marine camp.
Kandahar is a big base, right? That's a huge base.
Yeah, it's huge. It was, oh my God, everyone's there.
Now, what year was that?
2004. No. I'm so sorry. 2010.
2010. So a year later, they'll end up getting bin Laden in Pakistan.
I was there.
That
July, I was there. They got him in July. I was in country.
May.
Okay.
May.
I was in country when they got him.
Wow. All right, we're going to talk about that. Right? We're going to come to that. Right? So,
yeah, it was interesting.
That's nuts, right?
We didn't know anything was going on.
Yeah, nobody knew.
Right.
So now you go to Kandahar, right? And then what do they fly you out into the Helmand Province itself?
Yeah, they did.
Which was one of the most dangerous areas in the entire world at that time, right?
Absolutely. It was nonstop. It was just casualty after casualty. That was my thing with helicopters. Because they bring them in by helicopter, the majority. So,
and you just hear that sound?
Constantly. You just run.
Did you go out in the field on some missions?
No.
Were you kind of back on the base and they brought everyone to you, that sort of thing?
That was my role. They brought everyone to us. We were in what the hospital is put in what is considered a green zone. They try to put it in a relatively safe area. So my mission wasn't to go out and get the casualties. We treated them.
Yeah.
So we received all the casualties.
You ever watch MASH? Mm-hmm. Are there any similarities to that?
A ton of similarities.
Right. You have your structure. You have your home base.
That's exactly it. It's tense.
But they're bringing everyone.
That's exactly it. Except now it's a bit. It's a little smaller. Because the mission isn't to care for them while they're away. The MASH had like wards where people would stay for a long time and recover and then go back out to fight. That's no longer how we do it. Every service member is in the air on his or her way to Germany within 23 hours. So there isn't like wards where you stay for a long time anymore, but that's exactly what a cash is.
So what do you try to stabilize them,
you
provide a little care?
Absolutely.
And then just ship right out, right?
That's exactly it.
Is that a good way of doing it now?
We've saved so many more lives like that because you really cannot truly save the life. I don't know how to say it. Like the higher level of care is needed for those injuries. So now we don't wait to do everything ourselves. We send it to higher level of care.
So would you say in terms of like going to like, I don't know, Ramstein Air Force Base in Germany that they just have everything that you need there, right? And the doctors and everything else. What kind of hour flight would that be from Afghanistan to Germany?
I do not know.
It's a number of hours, though, right?
I'm pretty sure, maybe 6 or 7.
Wow.
But the wonderful thing is that there are doctors that are assigned to these Air Force, to these, transport flight medics. So we stabilize the patient, give them the report, and then that patient has a doctor and a whole medical team that's just taking care of them while they're while they're flying from.
Wow. So and then they end up coming back to Afghanistan?
The majority of them don't, because if you're so bad that you have to go out, then you don't really come back.
No, the doctors itself.
Oh yeah, they go back and forth.
Wow.
Yeah, they go back and forth. That's their deployment. They just take people back and forth from the war.
So they're seeing some of that trauma in the air and you know, where it's a touchy situation, right? Where you just don't know if they're going to survive that trip. And wow.
Highly specialized folks, those people
Yeah.
are. I mean, my hat goes off to them.
Very special, right? You talk about the medical side. Every part of the unit has their specialty. But you guys are special in terms of the heart that goes into it as well, right? Because you're always trying to preserve life.
You see the beauty of the 5 branches, 6 branches now when you're in war. You see how all of it works together, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to be a part of that when we are all in community, you know, in that way.
Yeah, you're all brothers and sisters.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter, right?
I remember there was a Marine that got hurt, and we put a Fraggle out for blood. And every Marine on the base came. You know, they just were like, here, we want to give him blood. We had like 300 Marines lined up to give blood for this one guy. And that's, you don't replicate that. That's, you know, love.
And you still think about those things, right? You'll be driving and, right?
All the time.
All the time.
All the time. It's, I think outside of being a mother and raising my child, it's the most impactful thing that I've done with this.
And I'm sure there's times you're driving somewhere with your son and something just comes out of you, right? Just a story or
a story, a
right?
smell. I try to, you know, save him from the worst of things. But
it's good that he knows
absolutely
some of this, right?
Absolutely.
So, you know, I mean, there's got to be he looks at it a little bit differently because he's younger, but he's got to be proud of you because you're his mom and you wore a uniform and you went overseas and 9/11 and, you know, Korea and stateside and then West Point and going to Afghanistan. These are all big things. They're all big experiences, right? And I would say, right?
They are.
And they're important too.
Yeah.
You know?
It expands your ability to connect with people. It expands your ability, understanding of words. For me, freedom just doesn't mean the ability to choose to do what I want.
It's not free either.
No, it's
right?
a cost, right? That some people have given their life for. I've seen those people give their life for it.
Yeah.
And a lot of service members bear the costs of that with damage to their minds and their bodies. So for me, freedom is a huge, big word. It's not just, you know, I'll eat tacos today.
Yeah.
And I think that being the child of someone who's gone through that, he understands the cost of freedom too.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Okay. Were you, when you were in the Helmand Province, were you able to go off the base? I know you're not on any sightseeing tours, and they probably probably told you have to stay close.
No, I that wasn't my role when I was there. I definitely just stayed inside of our confines. I think I took one trip to Kandahar, either for like resupply for something but that was via helicopter where you got on and you went there. And
so when you're flying overhead and you're looking down, what's like the terrain that you remember that you see? Like the Helmand Province was like that clay, right? That thick clay, right? Was it? I
don't remember looking out. I think I was pretty scared. I think I was pretty scared when I was in the helicopter.
You just didn't like being
I didn't know, and Kandahar wasn't a pleasant experience for me either because I felt very unsafe there. There were a lot of moving parts. There were a lot of different people in different uniforms.
Very busy.
And it was very busy, and I could not get like a sense of safety there ever. So I was also in a tent and the latrine exploded like 2 doors down.
Yeah.
So Kandahar is like not a good memory.
I think the CIA officers were killed there, right? When they went on, they were trying to get an operative, and it was a Al Qaeda, and he duped the CIA. And part of the deal was, all right, I'm going to come on the base, but you can't check me out. So it was a suicide bomber, and he ended up killing. Like these CIA like field. It was like a big deal.
I'm sure.
I think it was at camp because it was such a huge place.
Kandahar it was very unsafe. There was a lot of different people, a lot of moving parts, and I remember just wanting not to be there. Kandahar was not.
When you remember Afghanistan, the big thing is always like your own safety and security, right?
I mean, I treated tons of people who were the similar attacks where, the either the Afghanistan National Army or National Police person would say, "Hey, I'm safe," and come in and blow up suicide vests. That was something we saw quite regularly when I was there.
Did you see the security get tighter as you were there?
No, we maintained a pretty safe. We had superb security because of it's a hospital.
Yeah.
So at all times, the hospital has to be secure because people are.
Because they got to be operational.
Right. So we were in not only a relatively good space, but we were guarded pretty well because you can't have people coming into a hospital and blowing it up.
Yeah.
But I do remember receiving a lot of service members who had been IED attacks or those suicide vest attacks.
And they were big, those roadside.
I mean,
because you saw the vehicles change as a result of them.
Absolutely. It's heartbreaking. I mean, month after month after month, we amputations, just really horrific injuries.
Were you there for the amputations? Were you there to see them?
Yeah, they would come in like that. Or, God forbid, the doctor could not save the leg. They had to sever it or the arm. So like I said, my time in the hospital was very, very traumatic. We saw electrocutions, we saw burns, we saw poisonings, we saw stabbings, we saw gunshot wounds, just anything that was.
Did you have any soldiers do anything that was self-inflicted because they were just in this tough area for so long where they just had enough, that sort of thing?
Had the unfortunate experience to have a soldier commit suicide, and for myself and the doctor to be the ones to declare him dead.
Wow.
And that's pretty tough to see.
Sure.
And to be a part of. What's even tougher is that when the Marine came in, the Marine who was in charge of mortuary affairs to collect his body, he kind of was jovial. And at the time, I didn't realize how impactful that was on my psyche because I was so incredibly devastated and he was so incredibly happy. And it took me a very long time to unpack that he had already checked out emotionally and was just doing his job because every day he had to collect people who had passed away, right? And for me, this was my first experience with someone who had died. So I think that there's a great cost to yourself.
And the one thing about the military, there's a job for everything. Right?
So can you imagine?
As bad as that sounds.
Right.
Right?
So he's just going to work with his coffee, laughing, and there's, this guy who no longer has a face. And myself and the doctor are just completely devastated. And he's like, hey, where's the body?
Yeah.
So I think those are the things that really sit with a person.
And he was just trying to get through his day. And
that was his job.
Right? There's a very good movie that HBO did. It was more stateside, Taking Chance. Did you ever see it with Kevin Bacon?
No.
You got to watch that. It's
it's good.
very good. And Kevin Bacon's pretty funny because he goes, I would never last a day in the Marines, but I've played several Marines, and for whatever reason, I'm able to play that role. And it was a detail from Dover Air Force Base where the bodies come home and they clean up the bodies and they get them ready for, either for wake services and then burial and stuff like that. And it shows the whole process. And there are kind things that happen along the way in terms of, with his, I guess it would be his detail from Delaware to Philadelphia to I think it was Chicago, Minneapolis, right? Like a stewardess upgrades him to, to first class. Then another stewardess is going to give like a pin, like a religious pin. And then he's like sleeping. He can't leave the body. He's got to check the body. He can't leave it. He's got to be there, right? And one of the guys goes, well, are you going to go to a hotel? Nah, I think I'm just going to stay here in the hangar. So then what does the man do the maintenance guy do? He brings out a pillow and like blanket for him. You understand? So like these little things.
Yeah, kindness.
And then he was from Colorado. He thought the kid was going back to his hometown, but it was actually going to Wyoming. And he was on the road going to Wyoming. And that's one thing about out there, and from Texas, that's big sky country out there. That's a lot of land out there.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening was they saw the body in the back of this like big Suburban, and all the trucks went in front and they put their lights on as like a convoy.
Wonderful. Oh.
You know what I'm saying? Like nobody was rushing. It's not Long Island where everyone's rushing and so you have to, it's unbelievable. You watch it with your son. It's very, it's you probably get it on Amazon, Taking Chance. It's very, very good. Like it's, it was a first Gulf War guy that was in the second Gulf War. He was like doing statistics and figuring and stuff like that. He was working in a cubicle and he felt guilty. And then he ended up doing this. And it's unbelievable. It's like something else.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we're going to come back with Trisha for a third episode. We're also going to have Sean with us from Sail Ahead here on hmTV on the Fog of War and Humanity. Please join us for this very interesting episode that's coming up on this podcast.